because she was saying, she's like, you could be a misogynist. And I'm like, I'm not no misogynist. And then I made a quick joke to her. I said, I'm not massaging the circumstance. I'm giving it to you straight, so I'm not no misogynist, right? That was the running joke to her. But I was saying,
but even when they say misogynist, what is she trying to illustrate? Because I feel like when
What I
they
was
throw
saying
that
is,
word at
yeah.
you, they're trying to insult you. So,
yeah, she was saying because I said I don't like women.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so I said,
so
I don't.
yeah. I guess that would be
That's a little self-explanatory. Yeah.
That's just pretty
I think
self-explanatory.
To give you a piece of my mind.
Far from Normal Bros, and we back at it again. First of all, I'm gonna need you to tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a mother effing friend to follow and subscribe to your boys. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other podcast platforms as well. You can catch us on YouTube and TikTok. That's Far From Normal Podcast. Make sure you type that into a search engine and see the boys on those clips. We got everything for you. We got the website, www.farfromnormalpodcast.com. We got all the links up there. Make sure you check it out. Of course, YouTube. We're on Instagram as well. That's far_from_normal_podcast. Check it out. You already know. It's your boy Fuzzy Vision. You know, I see the world clear. And you know, I see the future. And the future is bright. You already know. Fuzzy Vision with 2 N's. If you have any likes, dislikes, rebuttals, or you want to be on the podcast, hit your boy up. Sonny, drop the handle, baby.
You already know what it is. It's your boy Sonny Frames. You can catch me on the gram at Sonny, SONNY, Frames, double S at the end. Make sure when you do check out my Instagram page, check out my stories, because I usually post a lot of stuff that has to do with motivation, inspiration, chasing your dream, and execution. So let's not forget, any dream that you're trying to achieve, the only way that you'll ever achieve it is through execution and putting a plan to motion. So make sure that you don't just stay in the dream world, and make sure you make it a reality.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And Fuzzy, let's get him.
I'm really starting to notice that it's the ugly people that are ruling the world. And when I say ugly, I don't necessarily mean the good-looking behavior or like the skin tone or whatever. I'm talking about the evil. Another term for the ugly is the evil. And if we reference it back to the good, the bad, the ugly, oftentimes when we watch that film, let me look for other examples. Man, it's everything. The way I live my life, I'm probably messed up in the head, because when you think of the Lion King, we all seen the Lion King.
Of course.
Who's at fault? Because I would say to you, Mufasa is at fault
For
what a leader should be doing.
mm,
Is that your brother? Scar's your brother?
mm.
How did it get there? How did that relationship get there? Now, mind you, some people just have, some brothers will just do you dirty.
Oh, 100%. I was going to say that, yeah.
I like to look at movies like that and say, because when you actually watch the villain's perspective, you start seeing where it's like, did you relegate your brother to a certain kind of place because he's...
But I thought Scar had his own ideology, and I think they were colliding with one another, because, when it comes to Scar, if you look at the movie, I don't really remember it too well because it's been a while since I watched Lion King, but I do remember that Scar, his idea of what the pride should look like and what his brother's idea of the pride and how it should look like differed. And that's where the conflict came into play.
Yeah, that was towards if I recall it correctly, I think I saw this like 3 months ago with my little
so
ones.
it is a lot more fresh.
Yeah, if I recall it correctly, it was Scar's older than Simba. Scar's older than Mufasa.
Yeah.
Scar's older than Mufasa.
Okay.
So Scar's the smarter individual, but in terms of strength, he doesn't exhibit that. If I'm not mistaken, Scar's older. The whole point I'm trying to say with that is that there should have been an inclusivity that came with the king of the pride to his brother. And then it wouldn't exactly mirror what really happens with lions, because with real lion circumstances, it doesn't happen like this. Yeah. But I'm only trying to say that when people say history is written by the champions, I would even amend that to say, no, history is written by, these days, the ugly champions. There's a movie called Stonehurst Asylum where there's this the synopsis goes like there's a doctor who is in a psych ward, not in a ward, but in a a psychiatric hospital, and he's trying to. Everyone has their own reasons why they're gone, right? It turns out that doctor himself is delusional, and that whole time you're watching the film, you're thinking this is a sane doctor. It's not towards the middle of the story that you realize this doctor thinks he's a doctor, but he's a psycho patient that's been thinking he's a doctor.
Wow.
And he's administering, and he's running.
Wow.
He's running the situation. And he put a girl in there, if I recall correctly, he put a girl in there who isn't crazy, but he's trying to force that girl into. So it becomes very similar to the Joker and what's her name? Harley Quinn? Is that
Harley
the name?
Quinn,
Right.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
where the Joker, he's the crazy one, and he gets the doctor to fall in love, the Harley Quinn, and she becomes mad.
Wow.
In the situation, he's a doctor and he's mad and he's running things. So it's a school, a hospital of fools, a hospital of delinquent kind of people running the show and trying to tell people who are saying that they're not sane.
That's interesting.
It's crazy.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because there's a show called Mr. Robot. I don't know if you ever watched it.
No.
So basically in Mr. Robot, he has two personalities. The one of his personalities is his father that speaks to him. And then the other personality is of himself. But the funny thing about it is he doesn't realize that both of the personalities is actually him acting out his father. Like he has these memories of his father. So that imagery of his father is there, but it's in place of who he actually is. And then it shows him, it's a really good show. It shows him at the shrink and he's there and he's talking to who he thinks is his father, but he's really talking to himself. And he doesn't even realize that people see him as crazy in the world. That he talks to himself thinking that his father's there, but his father's actually dead.
He's so focused in that he doesn't incorporate himself to the reality.
Exactly. It's almost like a schizophrenic, but I think a schizo is a little bit different. But in terms of he was doing a lot of things when it comes to hacking and stuff of that nature. But I just found it interesting that he was playing two roles, not even knowing that he was actually the same person that was thinking both of the thoughts simultaneously, but he thought it was an actual person that was by his side all the time, who he was talking to, when that wasn't the case.
This is why dishonesty, lies, it doesn't work long because you're going to go crazy. And then you won't know what crazy you've entered and what crazy you're living in. And you're going to bring other people. It starts becoming like a wormhole. You start bringing other people into your crazy. It's one of the reasons why I was saying to this chick just, I think 2 days ago, I was saying, I've gone to a point where I said, listen, I'm not a, what did I say to her? I said, because she was saying, she's like, you could be a misogynist. And I'm like, I'm not no misogynist. And then I made a quick joke to her. I said, I'm not massaging the circumstance. I'm giving it to you straight, so I'm not no misogynist, right? That was the running joke to her. But I was saying,
but even when they say misogynist, what is she trying to illustrate? Because I feel like when
What I
they
was
throw
saying
that
is,
word at
yeah.
you, they're trying to insult you. So,
yeah, she was saying, because I said I don't like women.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so I said,
so
I don't,
yeah. I guess that would be
That's a little self-explanatory. Yeah.
That's
I
pretty
think that
self-explanatory.
defines
That's
it.
the definition of a misogynist.
That's what she was saying.
Oh, okay.
So she's like, because I was saying, because she was saying respect women and things of that nature, and I said, respect women. Yeah. We've stayed in this Western world too long to not see truth. Back to even the delusional things, and if you keep telling other people lies and people start believing it, then it becomes their reality. I was saying to her, I said, women don't have respect. You don't give women respect. You're not even supposed to. And so she was looking at me like, what are you saying? That's really sexist. I said, no, it's not. Let's pause. What is respect that we're supposed to give? Oh, a woman does this job. You name it. Doesn't matter if she's a police officer. When a woman is a police officer, for instance, is it because a woman had to be a police officer? Respect is only something you can give to men, because behind respect is force of nature, which is death, kill. You cannot do that to something that you're gonna run through. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be very difficult for you to respect a toddler. You know what I'm saying? Because at any will point, you could just how you respect an ant. You can understand an ant, you can do a lot of other things, but respect has to do with bronze. It's a trade-off that men exchange with each other instead of taking lives. And I was saying that's the reason why people lost their way with sports. Sports wasn't just, ooh, can you throw it there? Can you bounce the ball? It was, we're gonna do this amicably, nation versus nation, so we don't kill each other. You know what? Instead of killing each other, let's champion this sort of behavior.
Channel into sports.
And we'll channel it into something where you can hold virtue and hold righteousness and hold strength.
Yeah.
Right? So this is why we like bodybuilders and things of that nature that looks like this person has succeeded for us. So he's representing our nation.
I do have a question for you on
Talk
that.
to me.
So let's say a person that is young and they manage to achieve a certain amount of monetary gains. Does that give them respect automatically? Or that just means that you were able to figure out the code of becoming more financially free than somebody else? But I think he garners respect from older people because of what they've achieved at a younger age.
For me, if the only respect that comes with men or people who have, well, it's just going to be men, because I don't respect a woman who has money. Like, you know, and I know how this is likely coming across, but I'm saying very truthful things that I stand by that I can actually prove over time. What I'm saying is, why do you respect money? What is money to respect? These are the sorts of questions I ask when I get asked questions like that. Because I'm only going to respect that man who made tens of billions of dollars if he creates an avenue for other men and for legacy circumstances. Otherwise, what is your money doing for civilization? What is your money doing for the men around you? I don't need a job. But to see that you're taking care of your clan, your tribe with that money, that's when I tip the hat. This is the same reason, back to streets, I hate having to bring it back to, but there's a lot of truths there that because the real ones are dying or in jail, people aren't represented it well anymore. But this is the reason why you can't just, let's say, be in the hood, get out of the hood, have money, and people are supposed to respect you. We don't see your effort.
No, but
you grew up here, but we don't see what you've done for us.
No, but people are still respecting some of these guys that are coming out the hood.
Then that's the thing about it is
they're not necessarily doing so much for the hood, but the fact that they came from that neighborhood.
But who's doing that?
That's like a representation. What do you mean, who's doing that?
Who's? It's never always the same people. Who's the person respecting the person that shouldn't get respect in that regard?
Well, you're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna respect them, and those people will be just anyone that is maybe just an onlooker, somebody
there
just
you
watching
go.
from the side.
So it's a co-opting kind of circumstance, and this is what we were even talking about when it comes to like the idea of like simping and tricking, where it's like the money, however you're getting the money, we're in a stage in time where you can fake the outcome and you can get an audience for it.
Yeah.
So that audience, do we know if that's the best audience? Is that the purest audience, or
we're not looking at what's the purest audience?
But that would matter.
The fact that they have an audience means that they're doing something right, in the sense that they're able to advertise themselves correct enough to garner an audience. Because if you were a terrible advertiser, you wouldn't be able to garner an audience.
This is what I'll say about the whole situation, especially when it comes to respect and what people deem as respectable and who's supposed to get recognition for what. Because we're in a day and age now, social media is crazy. So you already know you're going to have everyone's gonna be popular. Nerds are gonna be popular. Guys that weren't cool when they're younger are going to be popular now because they have a platform to talk on. And we can even look at different podcasts. We can look at Fresh and Fit, for example.
That's
Are
a prime example.
you familiar with Fresh and Fit?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, sorry. So going to Fresh and Fit, for example, a lot of men that I've spoke to about that podcast, they've don't really have respect for the two gentlemen on the platform. Why? Because they believe that they weren't that type of men before they had the success. So a lot of people feel like it's inauthentic, and like you said, the fake it till you make it. Saying you did something or pretending like you're one of those guys. If you have popularity that's associated with it in this society, in this day and age, a lot of people will start to respect you. And we can even look at artists like Drake. Shout out to Drizzy from the city, but we gotta poke at him a little bit because again, in the city, you know how it is with Drizzy. People don't respect him, especially when you're talking about more street guys or more guys that come from the hood or come from those type of backgrounds. Why? Because they would see him portraying a lifestyle that may have not been his lifestyle when he was younger. He's well known to be an actor from a prominent area, whatever his background was. Obviously, he probably had friends from around the way, but we know he never grew up in certain trenches, in certain areas, especially, with some of the lyrics and some of the stuff he's put out before. People would say it's inauthentic. You're stealing a wave, you're culture vulturing and all that type of stuff. But this day and age, all the fake shit that we say is fake, we're gonna be the last of a dying breed saying, I don't respect that guy. I don't respect that guy. Because the fact of the matter is, people are now judging things off of popularity.
Yeah.
They're judging it off popularity. Whether it's fake respect or real respect.
But you see...
But I see what you're saying. It's inauthentic,
it's
but...
not real.
It's not real.
It's
It's
And
not
the
real.
real ones will rise. If you use that term last of a dying breed, then we die.
Yes,
and that's better to be that way,
100%,
right?
100%.
Because when you even speak about the Drakes and all these sorts of people, I try my best not to give the names because I don't have no direct issue with those people as a being, but I do have a direct issue with what they've accepted.
What they represent.
It's almost like claiming a body you didn't. After a while, it's like if you claim it, you cannot really be surprised, man. If something like you can't be surprised, so don't do it. And because of the popularity, it's more like, wouldn't it be nice if? So that's when you're seeing these pop kind of behavior of, let me do this just for the camera, do for the gram, do for the gram, do for the gram. So one thing, just bringing it back to respect, how I view respect is when another man realizes your manliness and he says to himself, this could rival mine. That's what respect is. He's choosing, respect is, this person has masculinity and manliness enough for it to be a successful challenge, and I tip my hat. I'm still gonna be a man. He's still definitely gonna be a man.
But I think
I
for that, I think that goes that varies from individual to individual. There's not one set principle that says this is what indicates that you're a man.
But that's what I'm trying to do in these type of circumstances. I'm not trying to take on the challenge of I'll be the person to create the 10 commandments for masculinity. That's not what exactly I'm doing. In fact, I'm saying I've already been raised with those 10 commandments that existed before me, and I'm gonna I'm gonna try to keep it as alive as I can until the wheels fall off. That's why, again, when we're talking about simping and we're talking about tricking, one of the reasons why I'm so vocal about or against these sorts of things is because it's starting to be weaved into the conversation as a norm. And it's not a norm, but eventually, if everyone continues to have a worldview of something that's not normal as normal, then, and no one is countering that, then it becomes, I was just talking to a chick just last night, and she was saying, okay, name some of the street codes. I said, you want to know, once upon a time, you weren't supposed to eat a woman out. Can I say these type of things?
Yeah, man.
Okay, just making sure. So it's like, once upon a time, you weren't supposed to do that. And so she's like, really? You're not supposed to, like, even if you're married? I said, we got to pump the brakes. Why? Because if a person is married we shouldn't know what's going on in the married couple's bedroom. That some of the most thorough people might be onto that. We don't know. But what I was trying to tell her, I said, one of the reasons why it was an accepted belief system, if you want to call it a code of conduct, is because we don't want to be passing and championing that behavior. Because once you do, then it'll be like, okay, that's my girl. I've known her for X amount of years, so I did. Oh, we broke up. I have another girl. You know, she and I are really kicking it, so I did. It starts being a slippery slope to you just do it now, and because you do it so often, you put in the songs or whatever.
But maybe they enjoy doing that. That's again, that's
crazy.
No, but see, again, that's your perception of your reality.
But we have to establish.
No. Because you have to also take into consideration that, like, that's one example you gave, right? But you also named the example of the 10 Commandments, right? But even with that, geographically speaking, other people are from different places around the world. So your commandments, they can't resonate with that because that's not what they grew up on.
No, they can resonate with it.
How
they
so?
Because truth, that's the thing about, this is the problem with truth. Truth is like math, right? There are things that are true and there's things that are truth. Truth doesn't move for nobody. True has to do with perspective with eyes. So something can be true today and might be malleable to change tomorrow, and that can be true. But truth is something that the sun is truth, right? So even if we bring, let's say we say 10 Commandments, so now we're talking about the scripture, there's a part where Jesus Christ, and I'm not trying to Bible thump to anybody, I'm just trying to make verses a lot more clear in case some people didn't notice. Jesus Christ, when he came, he was trying to emphasize, he says, I am the way, the truth, right? He's not trying to negotiate what he's about to do next with humanity. He's telling you, he literally says it, I'm the way, the truth, and the light. No one can come to the Father except by coming through me. Right there, the Jewish people said, that's crazy. He's a heretic. This is nonsense. Kill him. All sorts of things happen. I'm saying that to say that in the world we live in today with the term is called relativism, people think, hey, what might be true for you may not be true for me. It's like when we talk about true, that might be the case. If I'm on the left lane, the vantage point you might have might be very different from what I'm at, right? Which lane I might be standing at. So you might have truth being administered to you in a way that my vantage point cannot refute. So I'm not just gonna say, oh, that's not true. But in the way that you were talking about it, and you were saying someone else's culture, you know, they may not understand your way of being. It's like, just because they don't understand it doesn't mean that there isn't such a thing called discovery and learning it to be like.
You're right about that. But
Yeah.
what you're saying is, you're saying that the 10 Commandments, that's truth. So that means it's a fact. You're
I
comparing
use the
that.
10 Commandments as I wasn't really going into
Oh,
10
okay.
Commandments. I
Yeah.
used it as you know how it's written in stone.
okay, so-
I use it like a stone, like a pillar.
Well,
Like,
okay.
yeah.
So,
but we can go into that too.
No.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to say, like, in terms of it can't be compared to a mathematical equation where, for example, when you mentioned the sun, right? The sun is something that everyone worldwide can see, and they'll all label it the sun, right? Because that's something that has been a proven fact. Like, the sun is just there. Everywhere you look, the sun is in every part of the world. But the Bible or certain religions aren't in every part of the world. They're in certain areas of the world, yes. But then that's why there's different belief systems. Like, that's why there's the Dalai Lama. That's why there's
For sure.
Judaism, there's Islam, even though they all have like things that coordinate with one another, there's also religions that don't coordinate with one another, especially in the East. Zen Buddhism, Hinduism. There's a lot of different belief systems that can't really resonate necessarily with certain religions. Yes, they could get a different vantage point by learning about these religions, but then again, what my point is that they're just different. And that's why I'm saying the truth, there's not one truth in the world. In my belief system, I don't believe there's one truth. I believe there's multiple truth, and everybody has a perception of what they consider is the truth.
Do you believe what you just said is true?
I believe that my perception of my reality is true, but I can't speak on everybody else.
No, but what I'm saying, do you believe what you just said about everything you just said is true?
Yes.
Because if you do that, then you're espousing that as a moral truth, and that's the
But I
thing.
said my perception of my
It doesn't
reality.
even matter if you say your perception though, because when you say it's your perception, what you're saying is that. Again,
I'm not forcing it on anybody else to believe that what I'm saying is true. But you asked me if I believe it's true. And I said, I do believe it's true. Hence why I'm speaking on it and saying what I'm saying about it.
So relativism is the concept that everybody holds equal weight, and it's all relative to people's perspective, how they experience their life. So you cannot impose your truths or what you think is the way life should be on somebody else. That's what moral relativism is, that everybody has an equal sharing of
I'm just debunking what you were saying. I'm not saying that I didn't come out and you came out and said that when you use the 10 Commandments as like the pillar.
You're saying like, in terms of the principles.
Yeah, in terms of the principles. I'm
not running away from that, by the way. I haven't even touched on that yet.
I was just trying to debunk that principle.
Yeah.
What principle though?
No, because
the principles that you were talking about,
like
where you said you're talking to a young woman and she was discussing about street codes and decipher that. And
yes, and I use the 10 Commandments as one of those old kind of forms.
You use that as an old form, but I'm just saying under your what you're explaining, pretty much you're saying that there's some street codes that should have been cemented in the street. Basically,
I'm saying
there's certain things, there's certain principles that that people tend to abide by if they follow street codes. But he was just saying that in different parts of the world, they don't follow certain codes for certain stuff, and because they're not in those environments, they don't follow those principles.
And that's what I'm saying. Just because certain people in certain environments don't follow those principles, it doesn't make it equal. It might, what I'm actually suggesting is that they should know of these principles. What's the reason that they don't know of it? Then this is when you do outreach, right? So you can look back and let's say those don't like to look at the historical elements of these things when we think about people and civilizations saying, I have this information and God wills it upon me to be able to administer and push this information. A lot of religion has, especially monotheistic religion, has attempted to do this, where in a sense it's actually a pretty noble and good intention, oftentimes gone wrong, where it's like, I have something that can really help this individual. I'm going to show. That's not always been the case. Sometimes it's like, I have something that can help these individuals. These guys don't know it. Why should I even help them? I'll take over the circumstance. So when we look at war and beef and things of that nature, combat between men, what you're seeing the survival of the fittest taking over usually, and they're not saying, let's leave well enough alone with their truth. They're saying, I have something that works here. We're either going to share it to you and give you so that you guys can improve and integrate to what we got going on, or we'll take you by force and do whatever we want to do.
So that's a moral high ground.
But that's a moral high ground. And even to that point, that goes back to like the whole conversation of, when we say like, what makes you respect this or what warrants respect for this and that? Well, what they're going to say is, who I am compared to who you are. I am who I am. So I can warrant respect because, again, if I'm Michael Jordan, I'm Michael Jordan. You're Joe Schmo, and you think you're going to tell me what this and that is? And unfortunately, that's how life goes. And we're talking about, the victors writing writing the story and explaining that, or the, history, is written by the victorious, right? So when that's being said, you have to look at it. Okay, just because that leader could have lived, it could have had terrible principles in terms of discipline, in terms of anything to look up after, to follow or model. He might be a terrible role model, whatever the case may be, but unfortunately in this world it goes by what you're able to do for yourself and what you're able to do for others. The men that are able to do the most for others, yes, get warranted usually the most respect in the world, because that's how people see things. They go, well, this person's able to do X, Y, and Z. He helped this, he moved that, so his name is plastered everywhere, and that's warranted. Like, respect is going to come with that. No matter what principles he stands on, no matter what the case may be, people are going to respect that more than they're not going to respect
So we're conflating respect, admiration, popularity. We're conflating all these things. Remember,
I'm not
respect always-
conflating anything. What I'm trying to say is that all those words can be subjected to change whether you like it or not. That's what I'm saying. So how we define and how we look at it may be that today, but how it's looked at tomorrow could be changed. And even though we can say that's a truth, all these words have meanings that someone put upon them. Words are changed all the time and meanings are changed all the time.
So when I have these sorts of discussions, I think sometimes people think like the way I'm looking at it is sometimes some people might misread the things I'm saying to think everything is written in stone. That's why I made a distinction between truth and truths, right? And I'm saying that because when you bring it back to things can change in time and that, it's like math doesn't change. Discovery of substance, of things that are not easily changeable, don't change. So what I was trying to say is that when I was bringing the example to that chick that I was referencing earlier on, what I was trying to say is that certain behaviors, no matter if it's socially acceptable today and it may not be socially acceptable tomorrow, there's still tenets underneath it, DNA underneath it that allow us to know if it should be or should not be. Oftentimes, it's very touchy, these sorts of discussions, so people do the best they can to not even touch on it because they want to be more cordial and just leave well enough alone. It's not, this person not killing them, they're not attacking them, so it's like, I don't want to necessarily touch on this very sensitive thing to this person's lifestyle. So people usually remove themselves from this conflict of discussion. However, people aren't walking away saying, well, I leave just believing that everything, if this person has his own opinion. Anytime when people say, oh, that person has his opinion and we can agree to disagree, 9 times out of 10, the person that's agreeing with you to disagree is thinking you were wrong.
Oh, 100%.
But the thing about it is, what makes that person a lot more competent is when they can actually, convince and show and challenge and actually destroy the position that you had. And it's not destroying you, it's just the position. So when I was talking to the chick about again, the only reason why I reference like the street code or commandments, if you're noticing, I'm talking about things that are supposed to be concrete, that today's society has made wishy-washy, that now it's up to anybody to decide what they want to do, like a buffet. That's the issue.
But how are they supposed to be concrete? This is what I'm trying to understand.
I was getting into one of them, but then we keep moving along with like water, so I'm cool with it. But like in the case of, I'll go back to like the ones with, again, we were talking about simping, the tricking, and I guess I am talking about part of simping now, which is the overly excessive indulgence in women, especially enough where you're even indulging in some of the body parts that are probably oftentimes not as clean or unclean, depending on what we're talking about. That kind of attitude as a norm is not something that I'm professing it out there, is not a masculine thing to do. No man should find himself oftentimes doing it for the sake of what? If you're saying I get pleasure out of it, it's even less of what the woman does. And mind you, I'm not speaking on people's who are married's bedroom. I stay away from that, and there's a standard that I don't touch that because I shouldn't even know if you're married. I shouldn't be hearing those discussions. You guys are married. Keep that shit in your bedroom. But I'm saying,
so your understanding of simping is that it could only be it's mainly the physical. That's your understanding of simping.
oh no,
Simping and
simping is
tricking.
emotional. You lose the battle emotionally, and that's why this physical stuff are so easy to yield. And so we usually see the physicality yield that we say, why is this man doing that?
But
then we get to, oh, he's long gone. His brain's long gone.
See,
That's
but I
why
was
he's doing that.
explaining to you that simping is not necessarily, yes, definitely plays an emotional factor, but it's not, the emotional factor is not only physically. Remember, I told
I
you
didn't say it's physically.
it's not just tangible. Being a simp or a trick is also intangible. When I was telling you about, shout outs to Coach Craig Adams, when he mentioned protect your meat.
Your meat.
And the acronym, protect your money, energy, attention, time. Those are all intangibles. And due to your emotional response, you are willing to give those things up, thinking you're not tricking, not simping, but you actually are. but not monetarily, but you're still simping in the intangible way.
We're saying very similar things.
But you're talking about the physical, that the emotion.
I say it plays out. Oftentimes, I was saying that we tend to, like, I don't know, if I'm bleeding all of a sudden, if my pores are like, I get a cut, something happened inwardly that now it's starting to get to our attention. Right. So, but something was happening. You might even see, sometimes you even have internal bleeding and no one sees it. So, but what I was trying to describe with simping, it has its way of manifesting in a form that we get to see, in an outwardly form that people usually see and like, look at this simp, or da 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 da. Right. So that's what I was saying. When you speak of energy, I mean, even the energy manifests in the physical way too.
It does. But I think when people think about simping and tricking, they're always thinking in terms of the physical, because that's what they can see. They're not talking about the things that they can't see. It's like people don't really talk about the internal bleeding of an individual because they can't see it.
So what's
only
an internal
only a doctor would be able to be able to discover, oh, this guy he has some internal bleeding or hemorrhaging to the brain. People wouldn't see that off just looking at a person. If they got a head injury, they're not going to know if there's hemorrhaging to the brain.
I want to talk about simping though. So I want to ask a question. So for simping now, why do you think it's a point of discussion? Why do you think it's a topic that men talk about? Because if you're not simping and you're not behaving that way and you're a disciplined man and you don't do the things, like you're not, pedestalizing women and, putting them on, this great scale, and you always have to measure up to them and you always have to cater to them and pander to them and try and please them. Why do you think men that have nothing to do with that are not participating in this type of behavior? Why do they talk about this? Why do they always bring up this talking point about simping? Why does it matter? In my opinion, it seems like it's less competition. If there's men simping in the field, is that something that hurts or helps?
Definitely hurts. And I love that question. The question, if I'm understanding it correctly, is, why is it that if you aren't engaged in simping or whatever that comes and you see that somebody else is doing that, what is it to you for you to engage in that conversation? Like, why not, I guess, leave well enough alone?
100%.
Because it's a cancer. It's a cancer, and it's yielding masculine role. You see, one man isn't just masculine. What a man does to his wife, to his woman, whatever have you, is giving that woman a very strong assurance of expect this sort of outcome from the world of men. So if these cancerous kinds of behavior are running to these women first, the expectation of that woman now is, well, if this man gave me a truck for my birthday, you best believe if you want anything near this, you got to give me a truck for my birthday. So it corrodes what should be done, proper practices that are actually natural and good for procreation. So simping is actually a very cancerous behavior.
But some guys will argue that never affected them. Like some guys that, think about it. If a guy doesn't simp, just put in this.
Anytime I hear that term, it's still funny.
Let's just talk about Ray Ray and Pookie. Like, they ain't simping, right? They're chilling, they're just chilling. They hit her up. She comes through. He gets what he needs to do. Then she goes on dates with another guy paying the bill, taking her out to fancy dinner, flying her out, doing all of what he needs to do. But when she gets back from that flight, she's running back to Pookie's house and he's getting his shit off without having to simp, without anything changing in his lifestyle. Whether that simp existed or didn't exist, he seems to be benefiting the same way he's always been benefiting.
No, because he does, right? Who does Pookie and Ray Ray thing you talking about? He does, or they do. Mm-hmm. He wasn't simping what you described. You said that there was another person that was doing the simping. Another person
in the picture doing the same thing with the girl together, and he's doing nothing of that nature.
To even speak on these Pookie and Ray, man, you're asking good questions, and every question you guys are asking and we're discussing have big implications in each circumstance. A Pookie and Ray Ray is not a person that men should aspire to. The only reason why men look into that is because of their sexual privileges and opportunities that, let's say, the average men don't get. So it seems so, wow, look at that superpower. He can sleep with whatever girl he wants to.
So they respect that superpower, right? That's a form of respect.
They would say that they respect it, and I would say
It's a
loosely
talent.
it's
It's a
term.
talent.
It's a talent.
It's a
Y'all,
skill.
you guys,
It's a skill. It's a talent.
You
it's a
can't
skill
say it's
set.
not a skill
You
set.
can't
I don't even
deny
know what
that.
we're saying. That's the
Well,
thing. Like,
well,
what,
what
what's
I'm
the
s-
talent? What's the you guys?
No,
you
what I'm
guys,
saying is a skill set to
what's the talent?
I say it's a skill set to lay with multiple women. There's a skill to that.
And I'm sure there is. I'm not against.
So that's what I'm saying. Where the respect would come from certain people
Got
that
it.
aren't
So-
able to
yeah.
get that.
So then, yes, so I would agree and say that's because it is perceived that they're using some kind of skill that is out of reach for them
Yes.
to obtain, so that they're competent being able to obtain that. So yes, I'll say that. But if we're just leaving it at just that, then we'll leave it at that and say that sexually, this Pookie and Ray Ray circumstance you're saying, he gets girls and the simp is going to be a simp and the Pookie and Ray, but there's more to it. This is the one of the reasons we were just talking about. You even brought it up earlier in terms of having multiple, the privilege of being pretty to be able to have multiple men or multiple women,
yeah.
right? Being a man that has multiple women can, what's the term you were saying? Can lead to more
Lead to more baby
babies
mothers.
and
Yeah,
STDs
baby
and
moms
stuff
and
like that.
STIs, yeah.
So what I'm saying is that when we look at the circumstance with the Pookie and Ray Ray, what I was trying to describe is that he doing the things he does, he's already following a fraction of the masculinity that men should have. For whatever reason, majority of the men that would adorn the Pookie and Ray Ray don't have, right? Because it's a lack that they don't have these skill sets or talents, and they even wish to be one day competent to be able to have that thing. That's not bad.
Well, the advantage is that they have innate beauty. So that means that they have
The Pookie and Ray Rays?
Yeah, the Pookie and Ray Rays, in the sense that those guys that women flock to, the Pookie and Ray Rays, are
Do people
guys.
know what Pookie and Ray Ray is, by the way?
Yeah,
the
they have-
audience already has an understanding
Oh
of this?
no! So Pookie and Ray Ray are the guys that have the good genetics. Whether that's they were blessed with being tall, being blessed with being good looking, having a certain complexion, having certain eye colors. That's what the Pookie and Ray Ray are. Those
It
are
comes with lifestyle too. So
Lifestyle
you're
as
talking
well.
about like the bad boys, the guys
bad
that
boy, yeah.
Have that imagery of not
Pookie and Ray Ray is a character from a
Yes,
film
yeah, it's from a
of
film, but
individuals
there you
who
go.
aren't successful.
Yes,
These are
aren't-
not good. These are not
yeah,
successful.
These aren't successful
They're not-
men.
okay,
So
yeah,
that's
so,
what I'd
yeah,
say. These
yeah.
aren't men
They're not
that
successful
are
people, so
deemed
yeah,
as
people should
successful
know,
men. These
yeah.
are men that are not successful in terms of monetarily successful.
We're talking about
Sometimes
the
they
genetic.
are.
They hit the
But
genetic
some-
lottery.
But sometimes they are, because the thing is, you have to realize when we talk about even Pookie and Ray Ray, we're trying to be general in terms of what it is they do for their profession. So they're not going to be a 9-to-5 guy. They rather be a street guy, maybe selling drugs, maybe scamming, maybe doing fast money type of things that give them an edge in life in terms of short term, not long term. Short term, keyword short term. So a lot of those guys, especially in the short term, they're the ones that seem to have the most advantages when it comes to women, because they got the fast money, they have the tattoos, they have all the markers of that bad boy look and that living on the edge and that fast money thing that women tend to latch onto, especially in their younger ages. They like excitement. That's the big thing for a younger woman. And when you were talking about simps, a simp, typically when we talk about simps or even guys that are known to trick, they would be obviously more successful most of the time. They have money to spend typically, and then when they spend it on women, we would identify them as maybe a trick. If he's spending money to buying gifts and
But
stuff
usually
of
those
that
guys never
nature.
hit the genetic lottery. They had to go.
Yeah,
they had to go down the long road.
They had to
The
take
long road.
route.
They had to take
even
the.
with the simp, right?
Yeah.
Doing the romantic gestures
they
that
have-
people would deem
exactly.
as over and extra, but they sometimes feel like they have to compensate because they don't have the same markers of success, or whether it's the looks or whatever the case may
Yeah, the
be.
Pookie
of
and Ray Ray take the back
appeal.
door. They take the back door to the woman's house,
You take the
while
front
they
door.
take the front.
A lot of simps too, by the way, don't even have We're saying so many things. I love this.
Yeah,
I
because there's
just-
so much different
to say-
aspects to this.
because I was
right?
gonna say, like, even a simp is not for those, in my view, from my interpretation of what I've known to be what people are now terming a simp. I have another term for a BAN, bitch ass nigga, right? So I like that one more than the term simp because a simp should be known as, to me, as a sissy, a woman in a man form, a male with the emotionality of a woman. So when we talk about successful ones and now they're using their money, that's a denomination of simping, right?
So
And
how are they
even
suppo-
underneath that
so-
can be tricking.
So those guys, how are
Yeah.
they supposed to get pretty women? Let's say they didn't hit the genetic lottery.
I know, how do they avoid
without
it?
using any financial
So
backing,
this-
how are they supposed to get these women? I want to know. I really want to know.
This is so.
No, I'm trying to understand. These
Ask
guys.
me the question again. What's the question you're asking?
I'm saying that these gentlemen that you're saying that they're bitch ass niggas,
There you go.
that they didn't hit the genetic lottery.
Yeah.
What's in their toolbox that they can use in order to get these women that they desire without paying through monetary gains that they've gotten through taking the long road to success?
I'll answer it as clear as I can. The system has to change, number one. But number two, competency. Number one, the system has to change. When we look at the Western world in the last hundred of years,
But we have to talk about today. We have to talk about present day. What could they do right now? I'm talking about right now. We're not talking about, back then, 100 years. We're talking about right now.
Limiting the problem. That's almost trying to like.
But you're saying you're trying to change the system. The system's here.
No, the system don't need
It's
to
here
be
right now.
here. But this is what I'm saying, that to remove the system, this is why history is very important, to remove the system. And I wasn't trying to say, let's go 3,000 years, 2,000 years. I'm saying the last 100 years, especially from feminism. Feminism is, have you not noticed there's a correlation with the rise of feminism and simp behavior. So when I talk about the system is extracting from men in all ways they can, except even in some cases killing them, and they're sometimes doing that. To put at the altar of many women, and societies like Canada is a prime, maybe the prime example in the world now of a system that favors this feministic urge and appetite. I say this to say that that's the system that needs to come down. It needs to come down if people are saying, okay, get to it. What should it be? For those who just can't, who might, can't hear the whole thing in terms of duration. A man needs to find himself with men group. You need to be active politically. You need to go down to your town square, to your legislation building, and you need to protest. The thing about this is men or most males are going to hear this, and oftentimes that weakness in them are going to say, here's 55,000 reasons why I'm not doing that on Monday. So the system continues to stay, and it doesn't matter to what degree you're trying to combat that individually. You're never going to get on top of the thing you need to get on top of. So the best way I can give that in another term is inflation. When inflation continues to rise, it doesn't matter if your job gives you $1 pay increase or $2. If they don't match the cost of inflation, you are not beating inflation. People forget that inflation is not just in one store. Inflation is wide-reaching. So the feminism that brought the simping and that brought this demeaning of men is wide-reaching, that one thing that a man can do, if we're saying, oh, just be competent, is not going to be enough in his personal life if I don't have more context with what he got going on. Because if I know more of what he has going on, I'll say, here are some other steps.
But what I'm saying is that we only have so much time to live, right? So that's why I have to put the parameters of today. A man, he has money, so he's built his way up to becoming a successful man. When in his younger years, he wasn't able to get the women that he desired, right? Now women are looking at him different because he has a certain level of economic success.
Chances are women are not looking at him different. Chances are women are looking at him.
Oh, the same, but
Right.
he's more attractive now because the beauty standards for women when it comes to males is more about where you stand financially, where you stand in terms of status, and where you stand in terms of like your stability, socioeconomic status. So those things are important to a female rather than men. When we're looking at the beauty aspect in terms of physical beauty, they're looking at what this guy can provide for them. So he could still look the same to them, but now that he's more attractive due to what he's achieved and what he now gathered in this world, what should he do with that?
I would say, again, and I hate being the semantic kind of person, I'll say what you're describing is appeal and not attraction. Attraction is a force that would happen, right? Appeal is what this woman is going to try to do. This woman is going to try to extract, right? So this is the problem I'm always trying to show men, because they'll say, oh, hit these, you check out all these Instagram stuffies and these YouTube this, and they'll say, oh, hit the gym and da-da-da-da, be a high-value man. You're not a high-value man if you do not have competency of the mind. Because a woman is going to see that you are high status. Maybe it's the shoes, maybe it's the car, maybe it's your cats, maybe she's going to, these sorts of women, I'm describing very truthfully of what they are these days. They're not your mother's mother. This is a different world. What I'm saying is they will look at you as meals. So they're not going to be like, wow, all I was doing was waiting for you to just get a good job, and now I want to listen to you and submit to your laws and your standards. That's all I've been waiting for my whole life. Like, why didn't you just get the degrees 3 times earlier? Right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Right? That's not what it's gonna be.
But so you're asking for like a whole society to be reprogrammed because they would have to understand the female psychology in order not to
the power of feminism. Not to cut you off.
Go ahead, finish your
The
point.
power of feminism is it came like a thief in the night. So people didn't really understand how dangerous it was. And in fact, it was mobilized up to 100 years ago, maybe even further, that we weren't alive. So when we're born in the 90s, even in the 80s for some,
born into
it's like we were being breastfed and things of that nature, not knowing this danger. Our parents can't really help us with it because they didn't even live this danger for the most part. They can always say back in my day, it's like, F your day, right? So what I'm saying is, it sounds like too much of a daunting task to say reprogram it. But the short answer is bring down the system. I'll say yes. In terms of your reprogramming claim, I'll say yes. You can't let this continue to live. If it's going to get somebody, it may not get you yet. It's almost like that monster in that scary movie where there's 40 of you guys, then it gets 20 left, and then someone says, I'm going to go down the hall like an idiot. And you always see, it's like, why is this guy going to...
Yeah.
Did you not just see what just happened to the last 3 people?
Yeah.
Okay, figure it out. He goes, he's not coming back. Before you know it, you're going to be the last man standing. I'm trying to say that there's a demonic energy attached to this sort of ideology. It's not going to go away if one man just keeps, there's a saying, men going their own way. If men just keep doing their own thing, somehow just go away because I keep getting girls and hey, it doesn't bother me. It's bothering you because that kind of girl would have said, I was never attracted to him. I was only allowing the appeal so that I can get good to get him on the day he wasn't looking, get all his resources.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But
Things of
what
that
I would
nature.
say is that the feminist movement is slowly crumbling without the men having to do much, because now what we're seeing is millennials are now reaching the age of when they're 30 plus, and you're seeing them without no kids, without no marriage, and now they're getting the cats and the dogs, and now you're starting to see the
It's
effect.
not crumbling. It's even getting stronger.
No, I think what's happening is actually you may be right, because what I'm noticing is that now Western societies are trying to bring more immigrants into their societies so that it counterbalances the feminist movement. So it almost looks like it doesn't exist, but then they're pumping out more feminism at the same time with the new generation.
As
of
long as
immigrants
they have
that are
new
coming in.
generation,
Yeah.
you're either the
Yeah,
kids
you're right.
in
You're right, the
indoctrination,
kids, yeah.
or the fresh
You're right.
off the boat
just
kind of
keep-
individual.
you pump them out.
And the fresh off the
Yeah.
boat are more willing because they're
You're
like,
right.
compared to where I'm coming from, this is heaven. It's
Yeah.
like,
You're
it's
right.
heaven.
You're right. Yeah.
Wait a bit and see what kind of heaven
about to
what kind of
see,
sick
yeah.
heaven you've been thinking about.
So basically, to sum up the conversation, it seems like it's more societal based. Like even with this whole, like we talk about tricky and simping, these are not obviously universal words or terms that people can identify with in different parts of the world. We understand that, but in this part of the world, people understand what that is, and or at least we're trying to understand what that is. Because, like you said, simping is something that just came out how many years ago? I don't even think it's over 5 years old. Like
Yeah,
the word,
okay.
the word
Tricking,
simping.
I think, was
Tricking
before
has,
that.
has been
Tricking's like
around,
20
has
years
been
old.
around, and that was
Maybe
just
more.
like that was obviously always categorized on spending excessive money or even money just on a woman that's not your woman, especially.
Exactly.
There's always that problem that people had with that because again, like you said, every action that men choose to do affects the field. Whether you decide you want to be a part of that field or not, it's still affecting all the men in the room, and it affects mentalities. That's the main
You
main
said
thing
it
you're
best.
talking
Yeah,
about.
I envy you
Yeah.
for that. Like I spent like 45 minutes trying to say what he just said in like 1 minute. That was it.
Yeah, that was the thing. The biggest thing, and like you said, in Canada is a prime example of this. Like you said, might be one of the worst examples in the
Yeah.
sense of what they're trying to push here and the mentality they're trying to put on men. So I think it's not necessarily this whole topic. It's not about men, women, dating, and all that type of stuff. I think it's about kind of the attack on masculinity, and I think that men that are speaking on this type of behavior, even though it can seem silly, people are, what are you talking about simping for? Who cares? Yeah, just do what you do. They do what they do, and people like to be dismissive. But the point of why we're tackling this is because that dismissive attitude is what propagates movements like feminism to take over, because they're
You're
like,
right.
well, if you're going to be nonchalant about it, if we're not going to have any challenges to the
They're gonna continue
come to the
they're
field,
gonna keep playing
well
with
then
that.
we win by default. So that point has been proven, and we see it in this society. So with that being said, if you guys have any final words on the topic, we can wrap this one up. But like I said, it's a mentality thing, and those listening, it's not to take shots at anybody. It's not to say that you're a trick and you're fucked or you're a simp and you're a loser and you're a sissy and you're this and that. It's not about the name calling, but you have to really identify with the men around you. You have to look at those that people that you aspire to be like, and see how they're moving and how they act and stuff like that. Because those people that have those solid principles are the only people that are gonna help you get to that point. If you're looking at those that don't have those type of principles, don't have nothing to stand on, then what are you really following them for?
1000%. Like what you just said summarizes a lot of the things I was saying. And even to the last part you said, my goal is not to make people who might be listening to this feel some kind of vitriol or anger towards me, or it doesn't really matter. But like I'm just trying to say, pay attention. The men that are listening to this, it does you well to pay attention to these sorts of things. It's not an attack on you. I don't know you. You don't know me. Just try to hear and try to remove the emotionality of how immediately it might be like, ugh, there might be a nasty response to it, but try to hear what's being said,
There you go. You got Sonia.
I really don't have anything else to say. I think you guys summed it up best.
Stop the simping.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Stop the tricking. Stop the
we
simping.
got to have a united front
That's
and stop tricking and simping in
make
order
the
for
feel better for everyone else.
Oh yeah, or the system will continue to remain the same.
There you go.
And we are out. Deuces.
Peace.
The way you make me feel. I'm just trying